Kia ora te whānau. This video is about your PCT portfolios and what to put in them and how to put them together. So essentially I'll be covering what your portfolio actually is, what the end product will look like. I'll go over the summary sheet, template and an example. And I'll give you an example portfolio structure, briefly talk about observations and reflections, and also some role models. So, what is your portfolio? Essentially, it's a collection of evidence that shows that you're meeting the 6 certified teacher criteria. So, it's no less than that, but also no more than that. It can seem a little bit overwhelming because we do so much all the time. And so, I think it's important to keep in mind that you will automatically generate evidence by planning your years, your weeks, your days, your lessons, but also just by teaching your classes, by interacting with students in whānau, by talking to your mentor, your PCT coordinator, your SCT, talking to colleagues, but also by observing, being observed, by doing your reflections, and then you'll be attending professional development, and you're probably going to get involved in the school community. So the really tricky bit is, how do you record it? How do you save it? How do you link it to the standards? So it's more about that. I wouldn't worry too much about not having enough evidence. You will have tons of evidence. It's just about how you can capture it. So if we start at the back a little bit, let's think about what the final product will actually look like. In your final conversation at the end of your 2 years, you will have a conversation with your mentor first. Then you will have a conversation with your PCT coordinator, and then lastly you will talk to your principal about your practice and your progress. And for all of that, there will be a summary sheet that the Teaching Council has put out. So I'll just give you an example of what that looks like. So this summary sheet looks like this. It's got 6 pages, and so it's got 1 page for each one of the standards. So it starts off with Te Tiriti or Waitangi partnership, and then it goes on to the second one, professional learning, professional relationships. You get the gist of it. So it's got all 6 standards in here. Essentially it will have a standard description, then it's got an elaboration on the standard, and then those 2 columns are for you to fill in, these 2 here. So what quality practices do you use in your setting that connect with this standard? In this column we just like you to add some bullet points of what you've done, and in this column we'd just like you to put in some links. So this document should not be longer than the 6 pages that it already starts off being. So the goal is to keep it simple for everyone, and the second goal is to try and find a system that works for you. So I will show you an example. I've sort of done one about my practice. So for example, let me just pick one of these here. So if I went with a professional relationships standard, for example, I might have some emails that I've sent to whānau at the start of the year. So I might have a collection of the emails that I sent plus a few responses perhaps. I might have had a few emails with the learners or with our rangatahi. I might have had some exchanges with other teachers. I've also emailed your mentors and you, and so I've got some evidence of that email as well. So by linking them, I can now just click on that link and it will take me straight to the document that I have put into my portfolio. So I don't have to have all of that evidence in the summary sheet. I can just put the link in, and then it'll be visible for everyone. For everyone who's got access to that document, of course. So for example, I might look at the learning focused culture, and to make sure that I sort of manage the learning setting to ensure that everybody can actually learn. I've created some seating plans, and so again I click on that link and we'll be taken straight to the 2 seating plans that I've created. So we'll just open one of them up, and then people will be able to see the photos. Okay, so it keeps it nice and simple, straightforward for me and for everybody else. They might not want to look at my seating plans. They might be much more interested in what else I have been doing. Again, designing for learning, and I've got an example here of some year plans. So I just click on the link that I've inserted here, and then people will be able to see my year plan, and they'll be able to select one of them and have a look at how I've planned out my year. And similarly, I could do the same for unit plans and so on. So this should be a simple and straightforward document that has simply bullet points and lots of links with your evidence. Now, to make this quite easy for yourself, I reckon it would pay to think about how you want to set up and structure your portfolio folders on your OneDrive. So most of us won't pull together their summary sheet every day. You'll sit down at some point, maybe once a term, maybe twice a year, depending on how you're structured, and you'll do some of those, like put in some of those bullet points and start linking things. And so it helps if you already organize your content a little bit according to the standards. So here is my suggestion. Again, it's a suggestion, you don't have to do it in this way. There's no prescription around this. So my setup suggestion would be you include observations, you include a folder for reflections, and you include a folder for standards, which has subfolders for the different standards. So this is what that looks like. So I've got my registration folder. It's got the different years that I've been teaching. So 2021 now looks like that: observations, reflections, standards, and then it's got the template down here that I'm just currently using as an example, but that's where my template would be sitting, at that level. Standards, and then I'm looking at my 6 standards, and as you've already seen, in some of them I've got subfolders for seating plans or knowing the students, for example, or I might have some evidence of year plans, unit plans, lesson plans. Those types of things might be sitting in here. So throughout the year, as I'm developing units or writing lesson plans, what I can do is I can just dump those in those folders here. Similarly with my reflections and observation forms. And when it comes to actually writing up some of my summary sheet, I can then start linking them. When we look at observations, it's just really useful to keep in mind that they allow you to get feedback on what you do in the classroom from another professional. So it allows you to pay attention to your strengths as other people see them, and it allows you to pay attention to the areas you can improve in. If you're reflecting out loud, which you often do in an observation, it'd be really useful to keep a record of those reflections. You could just audio record them if the person observing or you're having the conversation with is fine with that, and then you can just link in the audio recording. Otherwise, keep a written record of some of your reflections. Again, there can be bullet points. It needs to be something that's workable for you. Legally, you've got to do 2 observations a year. Realistically, I would encourage you to do more than that while you can, because you've got a bit more time as a beginning teacher, and you've got a bit more opportunity, I guess, to look across different subjects, different departments. Be observed as much as you can, and observe other people as much as you can, because that can really help shape your teaching. Pick up some ideas on what you want to try, and also in your post-observation conversations, ask the person about the thinking behind their deliberate acts of teaching. Why were they doing the thing that they did in the way that they did it? This will help you understand how they make their decisions and what informs their decision making. And often those might be things that you hadn't thought about. And so again, they can enrich your skill set. When you're doing your reflections, often as teachers we do reflections on a daily basis. We walk out of a classroom and we go, well, that worked well, or we go, well, that didn't work at all. And so those are useful questions. What worked? What didn't work? What will I do again? What would you change? And then also, why are you making the change? What do you think or hope will help improve it? And so it's useful to do reflections like that at the end of a unit, perhaps. Could also be useful to do them at the end of a particular lesson, or when you've tried a new strategy just to figure out, where your thinking is at that point. You can also reflect on readings or on any professional conversations that you might have had, meetings, those types of things. Now, the question often is, do you have to record everything? The answer to that is no, absolutely not. Save and collect work that you are proud of, that worked well, that didn't work but really helped you learn something, that shows one of your strengths, and perhaps also that was a step outside your comfort zone, and therefore kind of a learning experience. So think of the portfolio as a way of documenting your growth as a professional. One more thing you could think about are your teacher role models. Who are the teachers or who are the colleagues you look up to? So which one of our teachers do you look up to? What for? So what are they doing well, and what have you learned from them? That can be very helpful. Otherwise, we're just thinking, in terms of your documentation, you need the portfolio summary sheet. It needs to have the standards in it, which it already has. It needs bullet points of what you have done to meet that standard, and then it needs the links to your evidence. And then you're done. Thank you, and let us know if you've got any questions. Ka kite.